Greetings everyone, I am RSV. Today I'll be going through the NGS roadmap and looking at August to December and trying to ascertain how jam-packed the next few months will be. I'll not be going back over August, but I will say that August is looking fairly good, especially if you're a player that prefers instanced content. There will of course also be a new class, the SEGA, and additional story beats. But I won't be talking about that much today. I want to focus on September through to December, and starting with September we have the moon gazing event, which is likely another limited time event. The moon gazing event is also offering Cannonball Rumble Part 2, new floating board races, limited time randomite appearance events, and limited time event quests. I think that it's amazing that randomite is coming back. I think that a lot of people have lost a lot of their resources getting the Blizzardium, and that's a good way to restock up on those resources. But it does mean that there's going to be another resource sink in the future that they're going to use to get rid of all those resources again. Either that, or those resources will be invalidated. There will be a limited time event quest. Floating board field races are honestly the best type of field race that you can participate in. And otherwise, if Cannonball Rumble Part 1 is good, Cannonball Rumble Part 2 will probably be good too, assuming that it hasn't outstayed its welcome. Come October, we have various expansion updates, including level 65. I don't really know what the point of expanding to level 65 is, but that likely means that we will be getting new equipment, and we're getting high ranked sectors in each region, which means that we will be going back to Aelia and Retem, and I definitely think that it is great that we are going back to those regions. Being in a snow region for too long is probably the worst case scenario. I said before that looking at a desert for too long isn't the most appealing thing. Well, I mean, I guess we're not on the moon, so there is that, I guess. And additional mini episodes, so even more story will be coming in the various expansion updates that occur in October. Hopefully when we get closer to it, there'll be full-on story beats being dropped, as it would be nice to actually get more information about the world that we're in, and in particular, information about our character. More importantly though, it seems that we have a collab with video game developers coming in October. We do not know what crossover scratch tickets with video game developers specifically means. I think it could mean that they want to hide the name of the development team that they are working with until the time comes. However, I would not hold my breath that it will be out of house. Moving to Autumn Event 22, we have another limited time quest, new high difficulty training quests, crossover scratch tickets with anime production studios. And here is where it gets a bit complicated. I mentioned before how we definitely didn't know what exactly crossover scratch tickets with video game developers meant. Well, there are actually probably quite a few video game developers that also develop anime, and one of them happens to be SEGA. So my guess is that it is a SEGA in-house event both ways, and they are working with their SEGA teams in these collabs. However, it could ultimately end up being a misdirect, so that way who they're actually collaborating with is a huge surprise, but we'll have to wait and see. More high difficulty training quests I think is a good thing. I mentioned in a previous video that without ample reward for these high training quests, the training quests are going to struggle. This somewhat applied to GeoLab as well, but GeoLab has another problem that these trainer quests might have. The difficulty in the GeoLab isn't fun difficulty. It is making enemies one-shot you, or making them bullet sponges that take forever to kill. This isn't fun difficulty. And I'd argue that putting restrictions on player resources isn't a very enjoyable thing to play through either. There are places where it's done well, but I don't think it was done well in GeoLab. And I do not think that the enemy tankiness or their ability to do damage was done well in GeoLab either. Ultimately, we have to wait and see, but I hope they don't copy GeoLab thinking that GeoLab was successful and fail to add actually interesting modifiers. Like, maybe the floor is lava. You take damage when you're standing on the floor. You have to stay airborne for as long as possible. That would make attacking enemies on the floor a bit harder, and it will change the way that you have to play. Modifiers like that are just more interesting. Then every enemy in the instance can one-shot you, even the Teemos. Moving on to December though, they've announced their new region, level cap will be increased to 70, and new class skills. I do not have much to say about this update, as it was to be expected, and there is nothing there that's really out of the ordinary at the moment. There are a few things that I'd like to point out about the roadmap. There are a couple of things that haven't been talked about, and I feel like they should be. 1. No new PA have been talked about in this patch period. Now, for a lot of people, I don't think this really is a big surprise, and it's debatable how much that it matters, as after the last PA that we got, a lot of the classes felt a lot more complete, but the new skills that we got in Kavaris made a lot of these classes feel very, very unappreciated, and to some degree even misunderstood. When the best change that happened to the range classes came to one of their classes, the ranger, when the best change that came to tech classes happened with them getting a power up to their fire techniques, it really seems lazy in my opinion. And I feel like there needs to be some more attention given to the individual classes. While the addition of the skills system that is coming on the 3rd of August, I still feel like the skill trees need a better look at and just more attention in general. We will get new class skills in December, but we'll have to wait and see for that. And I really want to get that perspective out there now that we have a roadmap and now that we know that we aren't getting new PA until after December. Another thing I want to mention is there's been no mention of weapons or armors in the coming patches, other than the fact that we are getting many Kaiser series weapons which you can use to multi-weapon with our current Kaisers, which is useful and I'm not going to deny that. While I don't really expect to see individual weapon and armor callouts in the roadmap, it would have been nice to have at least talked about one new series coming towards the end of August. I mean, they teased the Cuckoo series for Geolab, where's the Cuckoo series for the Trainier? The Trainier might feel quite bad without a progression system tied to them, and I mean, if there is no progression system tied to them, again, what's the point of doing them, and is the point that SEGA throw in on them worthwhile? Next, we'll talk about the level cap increase, and I think the October level cap increase and high rank sectors added to each region should be instead in September. This is just a nitpick. Next, we have no mention of the Gunblade class, which was scheduled to come after Waker. While I don't think that information on the Gunblade class was necessarily mandatory or needed, I do think that mentioning it would have been important, considering that most Gunblade users were expecting to get it about this time of year. As keeping in mind, Waker was scheduled originally released sometime in January this year, so I think a mention of the Gunblade class would have been appreciated by a large portion of the community. But I've been RSV, what do you think of the roadmap, and I will see you next time.